Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. My name is Mohana, and today I am introducing you for our second episode of ETF's new podcast series, Dream Job Diaries. So, if you don't mind, could you please introduce yourself and what you do?
Wow, yes, hi Moana, and thank
Mhm.
you to the rest of the Elevate the Future team. My name is Joy Acaso. I am an anxiety support coach as well as a licensed psychotherapist. I am licensed as a therapist in Florida, Illinois, and Massachusetts as well. And I do specialize in helping mostly adults in overcoming stress, anxiety, and unresolved trauma.
So before we got you, on our podcast, we took a look at your website, and I actually read your About Me page, and I saw that you grew up in the Philippines and you moved to Florida at the age of 15. And you also
That's right.
mentioned that this experience was eye-opening. So if you don't mind sharing, what was that experience like emotionally and culturally, and how did it affect your career choice?
Oh, wow. Yes, moving here from the Philippines when I was 15 years old was both exciting and a new adventure, but also hard, difficult, and challenging because I was actually already in my second year, my sophomore year of high school in the Philippines.
Oh.
So I'd already, as you would expect as a high school student, right? I'd already bonded with my friends. I had a group of friends that I had known since I was in kindergarten. My cousins live in the Philippines. I have all my family, and that was the only life I ever knew before moving here to the States. And it was very unexpected for us to be moving here, and so it was just a new experience for me. And before that, my mom had actually been coming back and forth from the States to the Philippines. And so for 6 years, we didn't live together. My mom was a nurse and was working in the States. So I would only see her like twice a year. And so, we had to really rebuild our connection and our relationship as a family. And then the culture shock to me was also very interesting. I was fascinated by the different cultures that I learned about as a high school student for the very first time. I hadn't left the Philippines for 15 years, so that was and I had only learned about the United States and all the other cultures and countries through the textbook. So now I was experiencing it in real life and meeting all kinds of different people, which was really exciting for me and amazing. And that's when I started to really kind of think about my career path. And I knew that I wanted to go into just helping people, but I didn't know what it was actually until I was in until the end of my senior year in college when I was like, okay, I think I need to lock in to something, and my professor encouraged me to go into graduate school. So that's when I started to research about what kinds of things that I can do, and landed into social work. And I figured that social work was something, the field of social work was something that would give me everything that I always wanted, like help people, um, teach people, and also work in the community, which was something that I was really interested in as well in high school. And then I started my journey in the Masters of Social Work program, and that was in 2004. So about 21 years ago, and I haven't looked back since.
That's great. So, did you originally create your own business like right away, or did you just like gather some experience beforehand before realizing you wanted to run your own business?
That is such a great question. I never thought of myself as a business owner or an entrepreneur. That was not in the cards whatsoever. And then I became a mom. And well, first of all, I started as a youth counselor, and then a dialysis social worker, working for other companies, bigger companies. And then after I became a mom, I did not like my schedule. And so
Mhm.
I had to think about what would give me the most flexibility. And that's when I started my private practice in counseling and therapy and coaching. And that was in 2016. So, yeah, almost 10 years ago now that I started my private practice because I wanted to be able to have a flexible schedule and not be home too late for my kids.
That's so sweet. And it's also really interesting because when I was reading your About Me section, you like mentioned so many things, how you're like a coach, you're a therapist, you're a wife, you're a
Yeah.
mom, you do a podcast, and you even have your own blogs on your website. So I was wondering how you were able to manage like all of those roles without feeling overwhelmed and how you established that work-life balance.
Oh, yes. It is important to
Mhm.
share that I do feel overwhelmed at times. However, um, I have been able to build self-awareness and enough self-awareness to understand what drains my energy, what helps me recharge and reset so that I can be more in tuned with myself. So, which means that these are also things that I share with my clients, right? Like you also you have to understand what you need. You can't be last on your list, which by the way, for many years I did that. I was last on my list. I had to make sure everyone else was okay first. But I learned that the hard way. That's not how life works. You can't if you've ever heard of those statements, like, you have to put your oxygen mask on first, or like you have to fill your cup because you can't pour from an empty cup. And
Mhm.
I definitely, learned that from experience. And so I make sure that I prioritize my needs. I am in tuned when I know that I am feeling tired. I take a break, right? I look at my schedule on a weekly basis. I map it out so that I'm not having back-to-back meetings and that I have actually some time to recuperate and recover. Um, because I know that as a human being, I'm not a machine, I'm not a robot. So I have a limit also. So I cannot push myself beyond my limits. It's good to come out of my comfort zone, which is a very different thing than pushing myself so hard, right? I also prioritize my sleep, my eating habits, and my physical health. So those are some of the things that I make sure that are on my list. And of course, I spend time with family and friends to make sure that I also have those connections in my life.
That's a great response because I feel like, personally speaking, as a high schooler, we have so much homework every day, and we often
Oh,
spend
yes.
time, staying up really late trying to finish our homework and prepare for school the next day. So I feel like everything you mentioned, from like, I guess, eating well to sleeping well, making sure you have time for yourself, and also, like, I think more importantly, spending time with your family and friends, that's all like really important ways of keeping your own mental health strong.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
and you also kind of answered my next question, which was like, what are some of your like routines that you do to help keep your own mental health strong while supporting others at the same time? So do you have
Yeah.
anything you'd like to add on to that?
Yeah, so I actually, my kids are older now. My daughter's a senior in high school,
Oh.
and my son just started middle school.
Mhm.
So I don't have school drop-offs or pickups anymore. Very
Mhm.
rarely if they, need me, of course. But it's not every day. So my routine actually changed over the last 3 weeks. They started school 3 weeks ago. So over the last 3 weeks, what I would do is I'd wake up, early just to make sure everyone is okay and things like that. And then I, prepare their breakfast. And then I start working out after my daughter leaves, and she drives herself to school. I at around 6:30 in the morning, I
Mhm.
start to, work out. It's a short one. It's like 20 to 30 minutes. It's all I
Mhm.
have. That's also important, by the way. If you are, if you're wanting to incorporate like things like that, it doesn't have to be like a huge change in your life, right? Like you can start small. You can do whatever it is, a 20-minute walk, or if you like dancing, 20-minute dancing. You don't have to spend, hours at the gym, and it doesn't need to be like hardcore at first, especially if you're just trying to get used to incorporating this in your routine. So I do that, and then I usually have I start working. I start having sessions with my clients around 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I eat after like around 10 in the morning. Then I'll have my brunch. And that is a flow that I like. So I like to take my time and ease into my morning. One of the things that I discovered about myself is I don't like to rush because, I have to also prepare myself for my sessions, right? I want to give my clients, the best of me and to be able to listen and to be able to guide them. So no rushing. Um, that's really important to me. And I also meditate and pray. That's also part of my routine. And as I mentioned before, like taking breaks is also important. And taking sometimes when I can take a nap during the day, I do that because I work from home.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I think that's great advice. I love taking naps too. I take a lot of
Right?
naps as well when I get back from school, so I could really relate to that.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
I know you touched on this a bit earlier about, establishing a work-life balance, but I like specifically wanted to ask, like, you have all these habits, and I'm assuming that you didn't immediately just like, know how you wanted
That's
to establish
correct.
these habits. You had to like, go through the process of like trial and error. So compared to when you first started your journey in this field, what does balance mean to you today, or how has it like changed over time?
Wow. These are so thoughtful, very, very thoughtful questions. Thank you. Um, it has definitely changed so, so much. So, before, when I was younger, I would just look at, like, I would just hear people, like, this is what they did, and then I would, try to be like, oh, okay, everybody. One of the things that I remember is that everyone would say, wake up early, you have to wake up early and do all the things. So, of course, I did that. I would wake up so early just to meditate and make sure like this was like 4:30 in the morning when everybody was still sleeping, and I would start doing the things. But again, it's the self-awareness that really helps, that helped me, but I also believe that that is something that will help all of us to be self-aware and understanding that even something like that that sounds really good, right? Oh, I'm gonna wake up before everybody else does, and it's so quiet, and I get to meditate. But that actually made me even more tired and more irritable. So like because I mean at 4:30 is so early, right? And then by the time my kids would wake up, this was when they were younger too. At 7, I was sleepy. At 7 a.m. I'm like,
Wow.
I'm already tired. Like, yes, I
Mhm.
did all the things that I wanted to do, but I was tired. And then I didn't have, I wasn't the best like for my kids. So I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure that's not what my body needs, right? So I had to step back. And I love what you said, trial and error. It really is about experimenting. Um, when we see things on social media, even when things that, I share, I caution people, you have to really understand your own lifestyle. You can't just take what people say on social media and say, okay, this is what I also want to do, and this is how I want my life to look. You have to examine and evaluate everything that you need in your life so that, you know, you can ask yourself, is this really going to work for me? And you can try. You can absolutely try, but you have to give yourself permission to change your mind and say, I need to tweak this. I need to do something better. So I stopped waking up at 4:30 in the morning and I was happier. So I had to figure out other things. So instead of doing that, then I told myself, oh, let me try to do things after school drop off when I was doing that. So after I dropped off my kids to school, then I came back home. That's when I started my routine, and that was better, right? So then I absolutely, felt better, and there was more flow in my day. I felt more rested too. So now, as I mentioned earlier, I do evaluate my schedule on a weekly basis. So yesterday I was looking at my planner to see, okay, when can I, have my lunch? When can I have my dinner? I plot all of those things in my planner. And what time can I work out? Do I want to go for a walk this day, or do I want to do strength training? And things like that. Like all of those things I definitely write down in my schedule.
I see. It's a
Yeah.
lot of, habits, I guess, you're setting in stone to
Yes.
like make sure like your lifestyle is kind of, I don't know, like compliments you, I guess. I don't really know how to put it, but
Yes.
something like that. And you mentioned like a lot of habits and making sure that I guess you don't always have to be consistent with them, but like,
Mm.
developing habits is an important thing. But sometimes you can also develop like, I guess, not the best habits. Like for me, for example, when I come back home from school, I would really like to work out every day, but I just feel so lazy that I can't do it at all. So
Yeah.
but I like know that like I should at least like try to like make sure I'm moving for maybe like you said like 20 or 30 minutes around every day. And this
Yes.
is something you quoted in your About Me section saying like you talked about how like habits often win over knowledge. And this is just an example I'm sharing. So how do you like help people or like even your clients or yourself break that cycle of like, having these
Yes.
habits that you don't want to do? But you keep doing, although you know you shouldn't be doing it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And we definitely all, you know, um, do this, right? Because we habits are very hard to break. When we say habit, it's almost like autopilot, right? Like the brain already knows. For example, like if we have a routine, I wake up, um, I feed the cat, just
Mhm.
just an example, right? And then I make my coffee, um, and then I take my vitamins, that kind of thing. So the the brain is very good at understanding that, oh, okay, these are the things that we do one after the other. And it is harder to teach our brain to develop new things. Why? Because the brain likes to make sure, our mind likes to make sure that we survive and that we are safe. Those are the only things. It's not about making us happy. It's not about making us successful. It is really about keeping us safe and making sure that we survive. So those two things are more likely to happen if we have habits, if the brain knows like a predictable thing, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so how to break out of that is really one, setting goals and knowing what the minimum is. Like, for example, what you were saying, okay, after school, I would like to work out. So, my follow up question to my clients would be, well, how many times a week realistically can you do that? Right? So, they'll say, I think I can do 3 times a week. Okay, great. So then we map out, okay, 20 minutes is a minimum. As long as you can set a minimum, you will always hit that goal. And sometimes you'll even do more than that versus telling, ourselves like, no, I'm going to work out every day, but you haven't worked out for the last 2 months.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I walk my clients through like, a better pace, one step at a time, and also like don't shock yourself and just wanting to do a total makeover, right? Or like breaking unhealthy habits like cold turkey. We don't want that because we also want to make sure that we can track our progress,
Mhm.
right? So if I say my minimum is 3 times a week, then we have a follow up of like, okay, how did you do? Like, were you able to do those things and check them off and things like that? Um, and then we also get into the why. Why do you want to work out? And so I would ask my clients, and they'll say, so I could be healthy. And then what else? Right? And then I'll ask, why is being healthy important to you? So I can be there for my kids. Why is that important to you? So
Mhm.
until we get to the bottom of it, because again, we're humans and we will experience discouragement, right? And there's gonna be days, like you said, that you don't want to. Which, by the way, Moana, I don't think you're lazy. I
Oh,
think
thank
it's
you.
I mean, like you said, you have homework and you have other things, and I completely understand that sometimes you're tired after school. I can't even imagine what students have to go through these days. So, then when I ask the why, because for the days that for the days that my clients feel discouraged or they feel like they don't want to do it, they go back to the why. Oh, right, because I want to be there for my kids as they're getting older, right? Or I want to feel healthy, or I want to fit in this dress that looks so amazing. Like things like that. And it can be anything. And I tell my clients too, like, there's no such thing as being vain, right? This is your goal. So whatever the reasons are, they are valid. So we write those things down so that they can remember. Sometimes I even encourage them to journal through that so that it can stick and they understand, that they're doing this for themselves, for their family, and they're not just, copying the latest trend.
I see. So, what I'm getting at is that purpose is very important, like knowing why you're doing it and making sure you remind yourself of that. So,
Absolutely.
like, I guess as motivation, like
Yes,
as motivation.
for
Okay.
sure.
Um, I know we've talked a lot about like what your job is about and like the different aspects of your job. And just to conclude this segment, my last question is if you could leave listeners or like especially like teenagers, high schoolers, but honestly could be anyone with one key message about taking care of their mental health, what would it be?
Oh, wow. Okay, what
One is
message
hard.
about, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, what I would say is that I think really get to know yourself, really get to know what's important to you, because we are in this digital age where information is coming at us at lightning speed, right? It's really fast. Like there's new information every every time, and things like that. So, but if you spend some time reflecting about, okay, what is important to me? What are my goals? Who am I, right? Like, so you can lessen the confusion
Mm-hmm.
while these information are coming at you. You are also making sure that you understand yourself, you're in tuned with your emotions and things like that, right? And also, when things get uncomfortable with your emotions, when things get uncomfortable or it feels hard and it feels uncertain, please don't give up. Don't quit just yet. Like, take a break. I I I don't know how many times we could probably count how many times I said take a break, because once again, our world is so fast paced, right? Like everything is like, what is it? The Wi-Fi is like 5G, the what do you call it? Like cars, fast
Mm-hmm.
cars, fast delivery. Whoever has the fastest delivery, we pay extra and things like that. And reels are like 60 seconds long, 30 seconds, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
they're just coming, to us all at once. Just breathe. If you feel tired and overwhelmed, don't quit. Take a nap. Right. We like naps. Take a break and rest, and then think through what are the steps that I can take, through all of this. Because once again, our mind was not designed to keep us happy or successful, right? Like we have the final decision. We can help our mind understand that we can do hard things and it's okay to learn new things, because that will help us, in the long run. So definitely, again, my advice is just take your time getting to know yourself and getting to know what your needs are and what's important to you, and then build your life, from there.
What you said actually reminded me of something I saw yesterday, which was ironically it was a reel, but it was about how the person you spend the most time with is yourself. So, take the time to be
Ooh,
kind to yourself and appreciate
yes, I love that.
yourself. So, yes, I
That's so
really,
good.
yeah. So, for like this is a sudden topic shift, but I now wanted to go into talking about, I guess, the more um businessy aspect of,
Okay.
your business. So, starting in the mental health field, especially starting a business in the mental health field is really challenging, especially
It
because
is.
there's a lot of like ethical considerations, like because businesses are normally built for profit, but like also if you're running something that's mental health related, you have to make sure that you're paying attention to your clients because your clients in the end of the day are like the most important thing. Like they're much
Yes.
more important than like the money you are making. So,
Yes.
balancing both of that is quite challenging to do. So, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in the beginning when you were starting this business, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, okay. I think this question reminds me of like what I used to think, because in school, right? Like we are taught as therapists, like we have to help everyone,
Mhm.
which is great. Like I would really love to help everyone that walks into my office per se, and which is what I did in the very beginning of my private practice. My youngest client was 6 years old, and my oldest client was 60, I believe, and I was just really trying to think about myself as well, and again that self-awareness of like who, you know, there's really, I can't help. I had to admit to myself, that's what I'm getting at, that I really can't help everyone. I think that was the biggest lesson for me. And so, as I was getting to know myself and as I was building my practice, I started to learn more about just what kinds of clients I am able to help the most. And so, those are, women and girls that whenever, there was like a self-esteem issue or like stress related, anxiety related things, then I started to understand, oh, okay, it's not that I'm turning people away, it's just that it was not in my expertise to help, children, for example. But I've built relationships with other therapists and other coaches that I am able to say, oh, I think there's someone else who can be better suited for something that you're looking for. So yeah, those are also some things that I did not learn in school, but I had to learn on the job, if you will, like an on the job training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like experience is very important because you can't really just like learn something straight up from reading from a book. Like, also experiencing it also is also quite important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Experiencing it in real life. Yeah.
That I guess holds much more value. So
Yeah.
another question I had is how is your business structured? Like not like the complex, like intricate like details of like I guess like how many team members you have or like I don't know, operations, but mainly like how do you like structure it to cater towards your lifestyle?
My business is structured in a way that I have one-on-one clients,
Mhm.
and I also offer workshops to organizations, um, and sometimes it's in person if it's, local, or if I do have out of town speaking engagements as well. And I also collaborate with other coaches or other business owners, other entrepreneurs, whenever we see there's a fit, right? Like we collaborate and things like that. And I also have group programs where I teach, some um, techniques on how to overcome anxiety, and tools that they can use to manage their stress levels and things like that. Yeah.
I see. So, if you were to give advice to someone who's interested in mental health or like psychology or anything related to that industry, I guess, where would
Yes.
you recommend them to start?
Um, What I would say is maybe asking yourself like what kind of path you want to take to you, and the answers may not be so specific right now, like let's say because for example, if someone is listening and they're still in high school, it might be a little vague, but that's okay. Like at least some ideas of either what you want or what you don't want, right? Like for example, for me, I started with the idea that I wanted to do some type of community work, and that's why I landed with social work, because there's a lot of community-based practice and things like that. Although, I shifted after a while and thought of like doing more on therapy, and my involvement in the community changed as well. So just asking yourself, like what interests you in psychology or social work or counseling and things like that. And I actually did an interview just explaining the different types as well. And what it is that you can also, sort of like ask yourself, like, do you want to work eventually as a private practitioner, or do you want to work for a company? What kind of company, would that be? Is there a specific area that you're interested in? For example, because it is really so much information. Like psychology is different from social work, and it's different from mental health counseling as far as
Mhm.
like the degree, right? Like what
Mhm.
kind of degrees, you can
Yeah,
study in college. But if you're interested in just human behavior and things like that, for example, you can go into psychology, sociology, and things like that can get you started in the bachelor's level. And then when you go for your graduate degree or even PhD, you can specialize,
I see.
right? So,
Okay. Another question, which is like similar to the one I just asked. This is more related to entrepreneurs rather than people who want
oh,
to explore mental health. So you did mention that you weren't expecting to, start up your own business at all. Like it was completely unexpected.
that's
So,
right.
for people that like do have like that passion, that like the one thing they know for sure is that they want to run their own business, what advice would you give them from the startup?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that I'm the first and only entrepreneur in my family, my immediate family. My parents worked for companies, um, and so does my brother. My brother also worked for a company.
Mhm.
So I had no idea what business was, but what being a business owner would be like, no idea of like how to even, start. But like you said, if for the people who feel like entrepreneur is the path that they want to take, the track that they want to take, that's great. First of all, that's great. There's so much that you can, there's so many possibilities in entrepreneurship that you can take on. Um, Make sure that you are, looking for mentors that can help you kind of get started. Write down the questions that you have, specific questions that you have, so that when you meet with mentors or when you even like casually just, attend events, right? And then you start to network with people. I know it's possible now too for high school students. They have so many programs that help you network and help you meet people. Ask questions and don't be shy, from for asking questions. I wish I hadn't been shy like in my high school days. So be yeah, take courage to ask questions, to be in those rooms where you can learn and just absorb, everything that people teach you in those spaces.
I see. That actually is like our, I guess, special question. Like we normally want to ask like all our guests that question to see what people who are watching this can take away and, kind of incorporate into their daily lives. So I really like the things you said about, not being shy and reaching out because personally I'm a very shy
Yeah.
person, so I don't really like talking to new people or like, going up to them. So I guess like instilling some confidence in yourself is very important.
Yes, I agree.
I have one more question for you, and that is about the future of your business. So, what does long-term success look like for the next 5 to 10 years? And an add-on to that is, what are some future initiatives, if you don't mind sharing, that you plan to launch, I'm sorry, that you plan to launch in the future?
Yeah. In the next 5 years at least, right? I haven't really formulated too far into the future, which is such a great question. I would love to sit down and think about like what I want.
Mhm.
Um, uh, in the next 5 years, I mean, I hope to continue, you know, doing this. I hope that there will be more research and studies that we can use to help, people heal from trauma, anxiety, and stress. but I would say at least in the next year, right? Like what I project to be doing is more group programs and as well as maybe live in-person workshops. That is, which is part of the second question that you'd ask. I am brainstorming about something like that, where some type of retreat, in-person retreat that I can offer people, where I can teach them and guide them with what we call somatic work, which is somatic work is really understanding how our body holds on to trauma and how we can release, those things. And I would love to do something like that in person. Um, Hopefully within the next year or two. That's what I'm wanting to launch.
That's amazing.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
It seems like you're exploring a lot of different avenues that are different from, I guess, what you typically do in your business.
Yes.
That's great. And with that, I would also like to conclude our meeting. So thank you, Miss Acaso, for talking with me today about your job and all your experiences. And I hope the listeners can, gain some valuable information from your experience.
I
And
hope
I
so
definitely
too.
know I've learned a lot from today. So
Oh, thank you
thank you
so
so much.
much. Thank you.
You.